Hi, and welcome to the GenderSpeaker live show once again. What a windy, miserable day it's been. I'm sitting here looking out my French windows at constant rain, but there we go. I'm here today, and my guest is Nathalie Paris, a Geordie French storyteller. That will be fascinating. So my guest today, another Professional Speaking Association member who I started looking around for people who knew something about gender and found Nathalie. So welcome, Nathalie, to the GenderSpeaker live show.
Thank you very much, Ricky. Sorry.
Pleased to see you here. So I battled with French all my life, so should probably try and get some French. Do you get jokes about it? I mean, being a French teacher has always been a bit of a joke in Britain. French teachers always had some sexual innuendo around it for kids. Oh, did you not know this? Oh, right.
I'm blissfully unaware of it.
Because I grew up as a boy, and in the boys' school, the French teachers were always there was always nudges and winks about French teachers. But you teach mostly, as I'm getting, you teach primary school.
I do now, yes.
Yeah. So now, just for anybody who wants to find out a little bit more about Nathalie, I'll give you the link there, nattalingo.co.uk. It's down in the details underneath here as well, if you want to have a look at that. So I'm listening to your accent, and there's some French and there's some Geordie in there. So how did you become a Geordie French teacher in concert in the northeast of England?
Well, I fell in love with the English language quite late on. I was about 16. My first love was German, but didn't work out with German, partly because of teachers, funnily enough. And I came over to England when I was 17 in the holidays, and then 18, and studied English, got out for my year abroad. So I was in the northwest of England at the time. And I started my teaching career in Liverpool, started picking up a Scouse accent and thought, right, I need to go. No, that's not it. I'm only kidding. But by then, the man I was planning to marry did not like the northwest very much, and he was from the northeast, and I was quite happy to move to the northeast, and that was in 1998. So yeah,
there is always a bit of a divide between the northwest and the northeast. I'm in Yorkshire, and of course across the other side in Lancashire is the red roses of Lancashire, the white roses of Yorkshire, and we battled that out for about 100 years, I think, the War of the Roses. Now I'm going to click a little video in for people to watch to introduce the next thing I would like you to talk about.
At the end of a conversation with my best friend, I thought, I've got to tell someone. And so I told her, and I said, you know what, I've just got this crazy idea, I just want a French library. And she said, well, what you need really is a mobile library. And it was like a light bulb moment. It was like, yeah, that's it. That is exactly what I need. So this was about June 2014. By November, it set my heart on this bus. So I've had 3 years now of visiting schools with the bus. The children just come on it, have a little explore, and then I just tell them to grab a cushion, they'll sit on the floor, and then I share 1, 2, 3 stories with them, depending on how long I have.
You have grasped something which is just, there are French teachers all over the place, but never, ever, ever met one who owns a library bus. How did that all come about?
Just having so many books, from having lots and lots of books and wanting to do something with them.
So how did you get hold of the bus?
Just bought a second-hand ex-council mobile library.
Oh, I see. Because they've stopped doing those, really, haven't they? Now?
Yeah. So it was already all fitted with the shelves and everything. So yeah, it was just my dream has always been to have an actual library. But that was the second best thing.
I think it's absolutely fabulous, the whole idea, because it's not. I think the northeast, apart from sort of like Newcastle, the rest of the northeast is quite sparsely populated and spread out, isn't it? So people are mostly in little villages all over the place. So that must be quite good fun. So how are you? How is that working with COVID and this the sort of?
It's not. It's been parked up. The bus is not doing anything. So it's I've got to do other things because visits in schools are just can't do them at the moment. So,
yeah, I work a little bit at schools, and I'm finding it. I've got somebody just booked me for February, but I'm still not sure if that's going to happen. So it'll be quite interesting to see what does happen. Now, I'm interested particularly. You've got an issue around gender stereotyping in books, and I've spotted that on the on your thing. So I have a big challenge with the whole stereotyping thing because it. I don't know why we are obsessed with gender. And I'm going to look at. I want to talk to you a little bit about non-binary in Europe and the way in which that works there. But what are you doing in terms of challenging gender stereotypes in picture books?
Well, there's two parts to it. It's just I became very aware when my son was born, he's 20 now, of those stereotypes still being present in picture books. Things to do with like girls wanted to play with dolls and boys going, no, I'm not doing that. And I remember having a conversation with my mum and telling her that before she bought me a book, would she please check that, there wasn't any of this in it, this type of thing. And then as I got into to work in primary schools more and more, I realized that it was in books, but the books could be a way in to the children, challenging the children about it, and actually the teachers as well. Because I actually think that the whole issue around gender and stereotypes has got worse recently in my experience in the classroom. It's just getting worse. So I'm using the books with children and their teachers to challenge those, because I've got one here that I wanted to show you as an example, if that's okay. It's called Un mammouth dans le frigo. And the first thing that struck me about this one was that, so they found, well, French, so you see, they found this mammoth in the fridge. And obviously, this is a dangerous thing. So the dad's coming to the rescue, and the whole time the mum's just like sitting there doing nothing. And then, standing there looking scared. And the firemen are, they're firemen. Obviously, there isn't a woman there at all.
Yeah, not firefighters.
And no. And then the next female character that you have, she's just watering the plants at the window. The male characters. And this is a book that's been published recently. But then what interests me most about this one, because this is quite common, as you'll be aware, so this is one of the first things I discuss with the children. But then there's this little character at the end, once they've just given up on the mammoth, who comes and entices the mammoth, and actually, I'm not showing you it very well, takes the mammoth back to their house. And this little child actually has the mammoth as a pet. And this little child, the mammoth has just escaped. And the question is, that I always ask, is this little child that's tamed the mammoth, what, as if it's got a gender, what gender is it? This is where the well, I don't think it's the author, actually, it's the illustrator, because I don't think the author even thinks about it at all, but it's the illustrator. They thought they got a chance to put it right, because actually they give the child a girl's name. I mean, they could have gone for something neutral, but the child that's tamed that mammoth is actually the illustrators decided that that child would be female. And the contradiction in this story to me,
Right,
that's why
yeah.
I love this story, because when I ask the children, I don't show them it close enough so they can read the name on the child's
No.
door, that it's a girl's name. They all think it's a boy. When
Orphan
you
is a
ask
boy.
adults, they automatically think they're the ones that have the mammoth in their bedroom. They're the boy. Not
Bound
a
to be a boy.
single one would say that was the girl. And yet that illustrator's given that character a female name. So that's the type of thing that I like to I suppose it links to unconscious bias, doesn't it? And I think this illustrator I've actually met before. I just haven't had the guts to tell him and have the chat with him, because I know he's just had a little girl as well recently.
Yeah.
And I just think, is this really the type of things that you want your little girl to see and to read and to be surrounded with as she grows up?
It's great because I've got a little video which I use to show on one of my workshops. It's quite an old video. It's just some children being interviewed about gender. And they're around about 3-4 years old.
Mhm.
And they're absolutely got gender nailed.
Mhm.
They know that it's daddies who go to work, it's mummies who stays at home, it's mums who do the caring, it's dads who go to work. And all of the gender stereotypes are utterly and completely embedded. And when one of the little boys is asked, is it okay for boys to wear girls' clothes? He says, no. Why? Well, people will laugh at me. And right at that age, kids already know that you cannot, boys cannot express femininity.
My son started nursery age 3. His favorite color was pink. Within a week, it wasn't anymore.
No.
Because other little boys were
Bullied
just
out.
like, that's a girl color.
Yeah.
And I tried, and I personally thought I was bringing up my children just it was okay to like anything, play with anything, cry, be more boisterous, whatever. I was very aware of it. I don't know where it comes from actually, but I was, I bought Max a doll when he was little and all this. And one day my daughter was about, how old was she? Maybe about 10. She wasn't little. I'd say late primary school. And she made a comment about women doing the cooking. And it's the women that have to do the cooking or something. And I just looked at her and I was like, whoa, where's this come from? And then I thought, well, a dad always used to do the cooking, but she's too little to remember that. Now it's me who does the cooking just because I'm in the house first.
Yeah.
Grandma on both sides is just like traditional family that the dads don't do any cooking at all.
Yeah.
And it was just the other role models in her life were just like, and even though I thought I was sort of exposing her to something different, she'd got that perception from a lot of other places that's it, the woman, she's the one who does the cooking, she's the one in the kitchen. I was horrified. But
it is so easy for it to happen. And the problem is, if you look at Disney Channel or anything, and Disney's beginning to try and shift away from this, but we've just got such a long history of films and videos of all kinds, which, the girl is always the prize for the boy in a movie. The man's successful, achieves the goal, it becomes the hero and the prize. And even when the girl is the heroine, and it's basically based around some of the anime type things, it still seems to end up that the girl is somehow doing this in order to get a relationship with a man.
Well, yeah, because I've seen it. I went to see Frozen 2 when it came out with Leia, and I was like, why did they do this? At the end, they had like such a great chance to not do it, not just have this last minute rescue. And I was having, Leia's now 17.
At some point, the girl is going to have to be rescued by a man. Yeah, that's
yeah. But then I had a question for you actually, because there's one thing. So what I like to do is just, like I said, just raise awareness and challenge people, but I don't like books that are, especially picture books, that are specifically written you know, to like make a point and
Oh yeah.
focus on a certain issue like this. So like I wouldn't necessarily buy a book that was written to raise that awareness or, you know, try and rebalance things.
No,
I
no,
just want
no.
things to become not part of the norm. That's what it is, you know, that it's everywhere and there's no boys' toys and girls' toys in shops anymore. Why are there still boys' toys and girls' toys in
See,
shops?
when I'm quite a lot older, so my kids are now in their 40s, so it's but when they were growing up in the 70s, we pretty much got rid of all of this rubbish. There wasn't the sort of pink and blue everywhere. Everything was very much more general and neutral. If you went to toy shops, it was more neutral toys. And it seems to have come back heavily in the 80s. As we got into the 80s and 90s, all of a sudden, this huge pressure to make everything boys and girls became, I'm being dominated, I'm being attacked by notifications for some sudden reason. So I don't know quite why it happened. And by the time now, I mean, I looking around since I changed gender in 2000, and as a consequence, all my work stopped. People wouldn't hire me, so I sort of went, oh my god. So I went off to university and did a master's degree and started becoming an expert in gender just at the time when all the laws were changing here and we're bringing out the Equality Act and a whole variety of different things were beginning to happen. I'm just going to have to put this onto something that stops being quite so noisy. Yeah, I suddenly then started to become aware of just how gendered things were. And I got a little video I started to use on my workshops, and it was all about, I don't know what you do with this child. You've got to teach him how to be a boy. How do you teach someone to be a boy? For God's sake, you know, you teach them to be a child. Now, a couple of years ago, they did a really good documentary series in a school down in the Isle of Wight. Male teacher, Graham. Did you see it?
Yeah, I'm in touch with him. Yeah.
I've also been in touch with Graham as well. And it was interesting. He had no idea that he was using all this very, all the girls were dear and love and flower, and all the boys were mate. And so we had this gendered language going all the time, where the boys, even at that primary school age, were now being shifted into that area. Now, trying to learn French, I'm thinking about non-binary is coming into us here. We're getting very good. I'm increasingly saying just use they, them, their pronouns when you talk about me, and my partner prefers they, them, their pronouns. And we know a lot of people who are now saying, no, I'm not male, I'm not female, I'm in between. And there's a whole history that goes back thousands of years of people who are third gender, and it really is a quite comfortable thing to have. And in a lot of societies, non-binary people were quite revered. It's like, we sit between two, so we actually understand the issues of male and female quite a lot better. So looking at all that, and then I'm looking at French, I'm thinking it's actually relatively easy, although still uncomfortable, for people to say, right, we'll just use plural, just use singular plural pronouns, they, them, their. I look at French, I'm thinking, oh God, everything is either feminine or masculine, and sometimes with absolutely no reason or rhyme behind why it is masculine, feminine. How do you? I don't know how much you go back to France, but you've obviously still got family there. How in France and Germany, Spain, how are they coping with this big growth of non-binary? Because increasingly, countries like Germany is already allowing X markers on passports, and Spain has done the same thing. So they're allowing non-binary to be recognised, but how does the language embrace somebody who is?
Well, in France, what they've come up with is something called l'écriture inclusive, which I'm seeing when I'm communicating with French people. I use it, and French people use it more and more, and it's like making giving everything like a male and a female version. So it's supposed to be, let's say, if you take petit, which means small, and you
Yes.
were talking about someone being petit, you put a dot and an e. Well, I put a full stop because I don't know how to put that dot on my and an e, and then an s, and you put and you give those options. So in the written language, I can see it in emails and stuff. It's coming in. It's not being ratified. There's nothing like it's not being taught. It's just that, but it's coming. I think it's been about 3 years
Yeah.
roughly that it's been, but I'm aware of it coming in more and more. And I know when I send emails out in French to, like, you know, big groups of French people, I just use it. But yeah, it's not been ratified, and a lot of people are fighting against it because they're saying the French. I always tell the children, that's another way in class, I will say the French language is sexist. In essence, it is. Because we even have this rule that I was told in grammar, you know, when I was little, is the masculine always takes over. So I'll say to the children, you may be talking, that was what we were told, le masculin l'emporte. That's the strongest, it just takes over, it just wins every time.
If you have a group
so
of
let's say you
group of 100 women, it's elle, put one man in there, it's il.
And it becomes il. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I always just present it to them like this, and I can't remember what my point was going to be. Sorry.
No. This is what I was struggling with. This idea that I came across this whole idea, and I think it was Paul Noble's books, which are quite good for learning to sort of just speak a language. Where it's the moment there's one man in the group, that's it. Everything now becomes masculine. I thought, woo, that's not going to go down well. But of course, everything is every word in French is going to match the noun, if it's a feminine noun or it's
another thing. I remember where I was going with it now. But I've just thought of something else. Another thing that's coming into the French language a lot more, which is to me is encouraging, is how you make certain jobs that have traditionally been male jobs,
right,
and they are making a lot more jobs females. You can see a lot of extra e's, you know, in people's names. Like an author has only ever been an auteur until the past 2 years, I would say. Yeah, a couple of years. Now you can see auteur with an E, and that's accepted. Or some say autrice. People don't always agree on how to do it. But
yeah.
Then it'll just be usage, you know. So some people, several articles that I've read with the way of writing that I was telling you about before, which was my point before, they just saying that it just makes things even more complicated in terms of grammar, and that's basically their main argument against it. And then I would just say, it's not because something is difficult that it's not worth doing or trying.
Is there a way in French to just make something neutral, or is it always got to be?
I've never come across it. I've only ever seen you know, a way of making it both and giving people the option of. It's much easier in German because they've already got the neutral.
Yes. The German has a neutral, and it's relative. English is relatively easy to make neutral, but in China there is only one pronoun until you write it. It's the written language which actually has a female significator in it. I did a year of Mandarin at the university. I can't speak a word of it.
Oh, I tried. I just couldn't do it. I gave up.
It's just because you got to learn all. Yeah. So I'm interested in this because I think we're going to see this growth in non-binary. Young people are literally now growing up, freeing from the constraints of this binary. They're going to battle, and the battle is very harsh against them. There are a lot of people who, and even in the trans community, the problem is a lot of transgender people want the binary. They don't want somebody who was a man now wants to be seen as a woman. Whereas I'm saying, well, I'm somewhere in the middle. And
I'll be honest with you, Ricky. I'm not normally very vocal about it. Like I don't go on social media very much about it. It'll be the odd thing I do, because there's so much animosity around it all, and I've made the choice to do it. Just make a difference around me. You know, like with the people, the children I'm immediately in contact with, and I might talk about it.
Yeah.
But I find that, I'm just being honest here, I find that scary, and how you manage, and people who are really open about it and on social media and everything, just think my hat's off to you, because I've tried, I started, and I was like, I'm not doing this.
I've learned with this whole thing with J.K. Rowling at the moment, I have learned the only way, the whole issue about anything, if you ever get caught with anything that's attacks, anything to do with social media, don't worry about it, because if you just ignore it and nobody challenges it, it will disappear within 24 hours. It will be gone into the great Ethernet, internet abyss, and it will never recover. It's gone. That's it. Once it's gone, it just passes. The moment you say, no, that's wrong, now you have a war. Now what you've done is actually to stop it from disappearing, and now you've actually got a battle going on. And what people do if they want to have a battle is they hashtag the conversation with a hashtag that everybody else has got their computers set to pick up on. So everything suddenly hits their Twitter feed to say, oh, there's a fight going on here. You know, somebody's challenged J.K. and that's it. The whole thing, everybody pitches in, and before you know where you are, you're in the Twitter war, and it can be horrendous. The actress who played Scylla, her name is completely gone. I was just looking at her yesterday. Anyway, she did something and got herself into an awful mess with huge, really, really toxic battle online. And the only way to deal with it, ignore it. Do not engage in a toxic battle, because that's the only way to win. Do you remember the movie from the 1980s called War Games? About the little boy who accidentally hacked the American defense systems and had an AI robot computer playing thermonuclear war with him, and it was actually a real war. And the interesting thing, at the point at which everybody was going to throw rocket bombs at each other, suddenly the question was set to the computer, to this AI robot computer, that said, it seems the only way to win is not to play. And it was just a brilliant movie. Now, a French FA soccer coach, talking about breaking gender boundaries here. So you teach kids soccer?
Yeah, so what I do, one of the things I do when I visit schools, is because my daughter started playing football quite young, and I'd played football when I was a child. Oh yeah, so I call myself a truck driver, from having the bus, because that's what I used to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I enjoyed football till I was 18, and then my daughter joined a girls' team, and then we had the opportunity. They wanted parents to help, and they said the club would pay for the training, and I thought, yes, I'll do this. And then but I'm not a coach now. The team folded for horrible reasons that normally happen. So what I do is I've developed this. Well, I actually worked with Newcastle United a few years back, the foundation. They used to offer. Well, Arsenal does a lot of this. They do work with schools, but they send players that speak, the language that the children are learning in school. It's called the Double Club. So I'll do my own little version. I've got their permission to do it. We'll just go in, and I'll have found out what the kids have been learning about, but we'll just use the French and just build activities which are improving their football skills, but whilst using the French. And
learning French at the same time, yeah.
Yeah, so it'll be like the one that's always the same one at the end. We'll have a penalty shootout, but you're only allowed to take the penalty if you can answer a question in French. So that's just simple. Each child, to take their penalty, they've got to answer first. So yeah, it's popular. It's good fun, because it just yeah, makes this
Are
decision.
you finding boys and girls equally interested in soccer now at primary school level?
That's something that has improved as opposed
Yeah,
to
yeah.
the rest. There are definitely more girls in.
Well, I think the fact there's now an English, the England women's soccer
Yeah,
is
that's
really,
helped.
really taking off now. We've got proper leagues and a World Cup. So I mean, it's that has been a huge improvement.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
and they're not very gentle, those girls either. I noticed with it.
No, I wasn't when I played. I was a defender, and people wanted me on their team.
I'm sorry, I was hopeless. I didn't play soccer. I went to a school that played rugby and I hated it because I always got beaten up. We had this 18-stone kid at school who used to fall on people, and
Yeah, I wouldn't like it either.
I was much better at tennis and swimming. And
So I love putting those two things together, but then sometimes I just think, but that all in a way reinforces another stereotype of like people like football just because they're in England, and not everybody likes football. But
no. Well, actually, I mean, this is everything's all the British. I don't think we did invent the game, did we? It was cricket we invented, but
I'm not sure who invented
but
football.
even cricket now is the women's cricket teams certainly here are becoming quite good. But no, I mean, is women's soccer a big thing across Europe as well? Because I'm not.
It's definitely bigger than it was.
Yeah.
Definitely, yeah. So
I mean, last year it was the Women's World Cup last year, wasn't it? I think that.
Not long ago, yeah.
Wasn't that long ago? I seem to remember it was last year. Really, yeah. And it was really good to see that was actually happening.
Yeah.
So, how do you take what you do? Because you obviously work mostly with schools and with kids, but you still work in the corporate market. What's the connection? How do you take what you do and connect that into the corporate market as a speaker?
Good question. Well, even when you say corporate, when I do conferences and things, it's still mostly like in the teaching world. So it's like education. So I don't actually go into businesses. I haven't done this, but this is something that I want to develop, which is the latest thing I've been working on, is about the whole issue of how people feel when they hear others speak another language and how they think those people must be talking about them. So that's what I've been working on recently, and this I want to take out, not just to schools.
We are such a lazy country when it comes to language. We just don't. I mean, in other countries, everybody, probably at least knows a little bit of English, whatever their language is, but we don't know a little bit of anything. I think.
So I've just talked to educators, basically.
Yeah.
In my speaking.
Okay. That's really super. Okay, I'm going to just go on a couple of things to close up. Don't go away because I'm going to come back to you. Really enjoyed having you on the show. It's been really good to chat. You've been absolutely fabulous. So I'm just going to finish off a couple of things, and I will be back with you just when we've closed off here. So there we go. That's today talking about a little bit of a better understanding of what's happening, I think, within other countries. Don't forget that Trans and Non-Binary Inclusion Workshop on October the 20th. You can find the details of that down below, and it's on the basis that you pay what you can afford. I recommend a minimum of £20. I should be back tomorrow. No guest tomorrow, but I should be talking about bringing a lot of this together because I'm nearly at the end of my 30-day challenge. So for now, that's the end of things today. I look forward. Come join me tomorrow. And for now,